Hey guys, this video is going to continue where I'm trying to explore and talk about, because I don't really talk about this stuff too much. I think a lot of my videos have been trying to become comfortable enough to talk about this. Uh, it's not that I don't enjoy talking about technical jargon and philosophy and science and all that. It's always very interesting for me. But I'm trying to find a balance between enjoying um, enjoying that stuff and also, simplicity, talking about just things that don't rely too heavily on the intellect. Or as a friend of mine was telling me, um, seeing it through like the veil of, chakras and such. I'm balancing out like the third eye chakra and the intellect, like the higher chakras with the more heart and body, back down to sort of just simple things, back down to the earth. So I'm balancing that out, and interestingly enough, I don't know why or how, but up until lately, I mean, for the past few months, really, of my life, I've just been sort of delving so deeply into intellectual endeavors and philosophy and all of that. And oddly enough, last month, or maybe 2 months ago, I started to get this headache, and I think I've mentioned this before. And at first I thought nothing of it. I'm thinking, oh, I'm not getting enough sleep. I better sleep more. And then I started thinking, it's persisting. And it started to happen more as I kept reading things I like to read. I was reading B. Allen Wallace, Ken Wilber, Alan Watts, um, Singularity stuff, all these things that, normally held my attention. Not only were they having, was I having trouble holding my attention, I was having trouble just reading without getting this splitting headache. And then, the people I normally talk to love to think. Um, and as they were talking to me, I just started getting this headache. It was sort of like it started to follow me. And then I just started just not wanting to talk about any of that for a while. And then I would start to say things I normally didn't say, like, oh, that's all well and good, but I would often reply simply instead of trying to build philosophies about it. And then I just started to explore this other half that's equally important. Just, the more simplistic and natural side to existence. We're not just thinking machines, we're also living being machines, or so to speak. I don't even want to call it a machine. We're not just thinking machines, we're also living being organisms. And that has its own way of experiencing the world. And it has ways that are perhaps just as developed, perhaps more directly with who we are. And we can connect much better to those things than we can through concepts. At least, not everybody. I've met some people who thrive through the intellect, and I can't honestly say I do, really. That would be a farce, of course, because I don't know. I can connect to myself much better. Not when I'm thinking too much about myself or about the world and the universe. That's of course very important to me, but mostly I've learned a lot just through seeing, feeling, almost like an inner tactile sensation of just breath, going back to the breath, going back to feeling energy systems. And uh, when I'm doing that, you know when I'm meditating, things come so much, they come naturally without any kind of system. Perhaps a little bit of a guide and a little bit of practice, but as far as some kind of conceptualization, it's good to be smart, but this sort of intelligence is more like wisdom. It's sort of like you connect to your body, you connect to your mind in a very direct and holistic way. And I think that's very much missing in everyday life, especially in this society. We sort of tear ourselves apart. We say we're just these physical beings, and we need education. We need to stuff our brains with knowledge, 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 and we need to look out there, the world of exteriors and sensations and things that things that we don't necessarily perceive directly. Everything is very indirect, but we live through directness as well. So it's sort of like this odd paradox where society's telling us not to trust our very sensation of just being. Trust everything else. Trust your intellect. Trust your knowledge. But really, I mean, I feel like that creates such a split in just living and life. Life is much more direct and holistic and complete than that. And it's sort of like we start to live a lie about ourselves, and then we become very unhappy. Not that if we lived the other way, we'd be happier. I think we would be happier actually, and healthier mentally. But we wouldn't be perfect, of course. There'd be issues, there'd be challenges, there'd be all of that. But there'd be a little bit less confusion, I think. A little bit more, just a simplicity in life, and much easier to talk to people. We wouldn't have to build up this, wall we hide behind and try to come out with. You know what I mean? Like, there'd be less blocks and baggage to carry around, and less meaning to create such baggage. I mean, my question is to everybody, why do we complicate things? Why do we not talk about these things? I'm guilty of it too. I mean, only in the past few videos we've really boiled down to these simple, these more simple aspects about living and being. I mean, think about some of the philosophers that have come out of the West. I'm not blaming this all on the West, of course, but think of Sartre. I mean, I was learning about him in philosophy class, and he started to sound very Buddhist, about simply being. There's being, and there's nothing, and he's saying being is a scary thing. The world just is, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's great. That helps me relax. The world just is. But then he says, and it's terrifying, because the world just is barely, and it's a scary thing, and it's gonna kill us if we don't defend ourselves, and it has no meaning, and we have to give everything meaning. And I'm thinking, like, why that sounds less like a philosophy and more like a neuroses or a pathology to me. I mean, why complicate life to such a degree that we don't even trust our very senses. We don't even trust our very being and our ability to connect and to love and to become empathetic with others and to commune, really. I mean, life is sort of like a communal act of learning to connect with the rest of the world and learning our relationship to it. And yeah, I mean, that's where it starts, and that's where it is right now. Presence, energy, being, simplicity, all that just is. Why do we complicate it? And why continue? As Krishnamurti asked us, why do you persist? We talk about all these things, yet we must just be present with ourselves and others. We can connect with them. We can access this energy and all this stuff. Why do we persist in our follies? And I think it's because we have such low self-esteem because of all this, but I don't know. Anyway, this is just a ramble, but I'm trying to ramble through that kind of presence, trying to talk through that simple state of being. Just as like a reminder, it's a challenge, really. Can we hold a conversation in that state? If we can, that's a great thing. How many times do we find escapes and rationalizations out of this just natural being, we find every way to not do that, and we do it through books and theories, and I've done it before. We find every way. Can we sustain a nice little dialogue about this? And can we just chat? I mean, we can have tea over this too, we can go for a walk and not talk about any of this either, because that just is too, and that just simply is accepting the moment. And that's where everything starts, I know some people will answer, well, we need to grow through all these stages. Yeah, I think that's true, but we don't necessarily have to have a pathology in every stage. If we need to be thinking beings dominantly, well, I think we can be much more healthier. Maybe we'll see healthier, more integral and holistic theories and ways to raise a new generation in ways that won't induce the same problems that we have. And I hope so, because, well, we should, after all. I mean, this is too problematic to not do this. But either way, thank you for listening, and I'm going to end the video now.